welcome to today's episode of The Daily Blend. I am your host, AC, and we are joined in studio today by Michelle Struemph. She is the author of the book, Living with Trauma, Finding the Light Again. How are you, Michelle?
Well, good, Adonica. Thank you so much for inviting me and extending this invitation. It means a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I was just telling you before we started, I had several people reaching out to me saying, you need to have Michelle on the show.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have you. So tell us about the book.
Okay, well, this book, the seeds of it originated in my mind, probably my last year of service with the Missouri National Guard. Mm-hmm. I was the sole female leader on the Army side at that time, serving on our command floor.
Okay.
And so part of my duties, I stood up a Women's Mentorship Council. Mm-hmm. And with that council, I just started observing, we started really diving into why do our female servicewomen typically leave our ranks within the mid-grades. Mm-hmm. And so when I started diving into that, a lot of it had to do with sexual harassment, mm-hmm. assaults, of course, pregnancy, marriage,
yes.
Marriage, kids, all that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started observing behaviors. And I went out with our sexual harassment assault response program coordinators mm-hmm. to visit the units. And a lot of female soldiers started reporting to me about incidences that happened to them. And the males, it was previously just two males going out. And mm-hmm. they were like, we've been to these units, 4 or 5 times that nobody's reported to us. Why are they reporting to you? And it's like, well, I am a woman.
Right.
And some of them said, well, we could tell it happened to you too.
Yeah.
And so that really surprised me. Mm. And then, I started diving deeper into some of the behaviors and, maladaptive mm-hmm. type things, that females with sexual assault experience. And mm-hmm. I realized, I stuffed it down for many years, and I realized I was not immune to that and that I was exhibiting some of those emotional issues myself. Mm. And so, it just started formulating in my head, the book. And I started observing non-inclusive behaviors, mm-hmm. Microaggressors, things like that. Yep. And then upon retiring, I decided, I need to seek therapy and help myself. And I went on that journey. And again, the seeds of the book were fermenting in my mind, mm-hmm. but I am a very active person. So it literally took me getting a knee transplant surgery and then the whole world shutting down in 2020 to actually sit down and write this book. Mm-hmm. And that's what it took. And that was the first draft. Mm. Well, then I only reached out to one publisher. And thank goodness, actually, it was denied. And then I thought, in 2023, I reached out through a friend of a friend, another publisher who's a hybrid publisher. So they published my book, but I actually own all the rights to my book, which was huge for mm-hmm. me. And they took my book immediately. As a matter of fact, the CEO called me the very next day, which was awesome.
Yes.
And so from then on, and then it was published in June of this year.
Okay.
So it's been a journey because, it just started fermenting in 2017. 2020, I wrote the first draft and
mm-hmm.
then, massaged, manipulated, rewrote, edited, all that,
Yeah.
So it's a very personal journey. Mm-hmm. And I typically, the military doesn't really teach you vulnerability. Mm-hmm. It's like, suck it up,
it's the opposite.
Put on the brave face,
sure.
Put that mask on.
Sure.
So it was a very, very vulnerable thing for me to do, to tell my most intimate and personal of stories. But I knew I had to. And also on my healing journey, I joined a lot of groups with our local VA here in Columbia.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And just seeing all these young ladies and how it affected them. And I'm like, I have to do something. I have to tell my story, tell my healing journey. So mm-hmm. it gives them hope and lets them know they can heal. Yes. And it also tells them they're not alone. Yeah. So I did a lot of research for this book.
I'm sure.
A lot of research. So
I'm sure. And unfortunately, you probably didn't have to look super far.
No, not really, because there's a lot out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously not something that people talk about a lot in the same way that
don't.
You said it was hard for you.
Very hard. And actually, I did, at the time, it was called Transforming Trauma Through Art. Mm-hmm. It was an art therapy group with the VA. And, art is such a wonderful way to express yourself before you can find the words. Mm. And, that was really powerful for me. And I have a lot of my drawing assignments in my book because mm-hmm. I feel like you can reach people through different ways, through words, through pictures. And I even use quotes because I'm a big quote person. Mm-hmm. So,
mm-hmm. Well, I would imagine that anybody who reads this book, will find something relatable in here, right?
Anybody will. Mm-hmm. Honestly, It's all over the world. It's in any organization.
Yeah.
I just, talk about my own personal experience.
Sure.
And the numbers are pretty high in the military. 1 out of 3 women experience it in the military. So, but it's everywhere. And every organization needs to observe their behaviors and their leadership climate.
And their cultures.
Just because, and their cultures, even our societal cultures. And because, predators, I always say they test the waters with small things. And it's those really small things that say, hey, they don't respect the women so much here. I think I'm safe.
I think I'm good here.
Yeah.
I think I'm good here.
And I also believe in a continuum of harm, how behaviors escalate. So, and I think, we really need to be made aware of that and squash it, at the lowest levels so it doesn't escalate. So these predators don't become leaders in your organization and use their power in sickening ways, harmful,
and sickening
egregious ways.
That's absolutely right.
Yes.
Because then that creates these cycles, right?
Yes.
We walk around sometimes with this trauma kind of pushed down.
Oh, yeah. Most of us push it down. We don't want to talk about it.
Down.
And it leaks out.
Yes.
It leaks out.
In unproductive ways
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
But bravo to you for recognizing that and hearing those other women's stories and saying, you know what? It's time for me to tell this story because I guarantee it's not just your story.
No,
it's
and
a lot of women's story.
I do share 3 other women's stories, 1 from the Marines and 2 from the Navy. So it's in all services. It's everywhere. And so I just...
Yeah. Well, thank you for writing this.
Thank you so much.
It had to take a lot, and we appreciate it. Tell us where we can find it.
Oh, this book can be found. It's on Amazon now, Goodreads, Kobo, Ingram Spark, online with Barnes & Noble. And I actually think it's gone on a few international book sites. So,
wonderful.
Yeah, so that's excellent.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we need to get you somewhere around here for a book signing.
I would love to do that.
Okay. Well, I know some folks in some bookstores, so let's see if we can
that would be excellent.
Connect you
Thank
and
you,
get
Adonica.
some things connected for you for sure, because it's an important read. And I'm sure there are plenty of people in our community who would love to support you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that and your time.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us. And so pick up the book, Finding the Light Again, Living with Trauma, Michelle Struemph.